And all of a sudden, there were a couple officers in front of me, smiling. And this was different. My dogs weren't barking. And I guess they sensed their energy, that they weren't here to get me. And they told me, we're not here to arrest you, Kevin. We want to get you some help. You know, and at first I was a little leery of this. You know, I didn't really trust them at first, you know, so I was attempting to hide my drugs and alcohol. So they told me, we're not here to arrest you, we're here to help you. And they told me that they could help me and that I didn't need to live like this anymore. And at that time, I believe they took a little information from me, you know, like my name, my social security number, my date of birth. They asked me how long I'd been out here. It was during that time that the seed had been planted by them, you know, and it was during that time that I decided to quit living the way I was living, quit doing drugs, quit drinking. And I just decided to change my life, and it was, you know, I really do have Project Hope to thank for that.
Good afternoon. Not me yet. So I'll start a little bit. So I'm a deputy on a homeless outreach team, not the normal thing of law enforcement, but I know a lot of you across the country are moving in that direction with having law enforcement do some type of things with homelessness, around homelessness, trying to move people beyond homelessness. And when we started about 6 years ago researching this, me, along with one of my partners, was kind of tasked with trying to find a better way of dealing with quality of life issues in our county. And our sheriff, being very forward-thinking, at the time there was probably only 20 cities across the country that were doing stuff around homelessness through law enforcement. And even when it comes to law enforcement, a lot of people think that that's the answer to homelessness. That's not. We've been around for 160 years and there's still homeless in our county, so arresting our way out doesn't work. So ultimately, our goal is trying to reduce that number, trying to get those people beyond homelessness, back in the community. So there's kind of a story about how we've done this around the area. So we're here in the small county of California, the largest county in the continental U.S. We could fit 7 small states into the county. It's about 20,000 square miles. And most of the population is made up in the southwest corner here. You can see we have a lot of desolate area, so not too many homeless out that way. About 10% of our population is homeless also, with 2,000 homeless. And you can see from our heat maps here, created off of RGIS mapping and stuff, where those folks are. So our team for those 20,000 square miles is made up of 4 people. A lot of miles on our cars. A sergeant and my partners, Aaron and Mike. So when Sheriff McMahon created the program in 2014, the goal to get people beyond homelessness and stop the recidivism, just going back and forth through incarceration, which obviously doesn't help. We found a lot of success. You go into the Esri product and the GIS, and I'll talk about how we started and how we moved over to the GIS and the benefits of that we've had throughout showing some of our things. So originally, we took this little card, the 3x5 card. We'd go out in the field, we contact a homeless individual, and we geared this. Typically, we call these a FI card in law enforcement. This one we geared towards homeless. So you can see it has military, mental health, reason for being homeless, and that's what we kept. We'd go back to the office, very time-consuming and not most efficient, and enter these after a day of 20 to 40 contacts a day, enter these into an Excel spreadsheet, city by city, region by region, so we'd have documentation of these folks. Obviously, a lot of litigation around homelessness, so trying to document our contacts of offering services and not just pushing these folks along. So in 2015, one of our cities in the county, they were really involved in Esri platforms, and they had a meeting and we talked about homelessness. So we moved to using the Collector app at the time, and we were very vague, and we would just put a dot on where we were, and all we had was the encampment with no info. Because in law enforcement, we're used to writing everything out and not all that cool technology. And that created those mapping and things like that, which were good. If I wasn't here tomorrow, at least my partners would know where to go to contact homeless. But we didn't have a lot of data in that to share. And one of the things in law enforcement, when we're there, when we get called to something, we're usually there to fix a problem, and we don't leave till that's fixed. Well, in homelessness, that's not the case. We can't just fix it and leave because there's not a simple fix. So it's that long-term approach. So we've moved over to the GIS platform, and as you can see, I'm not in a nice Class A like I probably should be today, so I might get the boss mad at me. But I wanted to wear the uniform that we're out in the field in. So we're out there under the bridges and things like that, and we use the mobile platforms that Esri has. So our first thing that we're going to show, this here is shown obviously on the computer, on a desktop, but this is on our mobile device out in the field. And this all came about a few years ago. Our CAO of the county wanted to know if all of law enforcement in the county was working on one platform and creating one list. Well, just like all the cities and all the departments, you're not working on the same platform and sharing that information. So we sat down with our tech services division, and we found out that most cities in the county had enterprises through Esri, and it made sense that we all work on something that we could share that data, we could build something, and with the help of Esri and our ISD, we were able to have a program up and running within a couple weeks to have this in real time with the dashboards that I'll share and this contact form. So you can see on the contact form just some of the questions that we're asking, the reporting agency, city. So we're the HOPE team. We document that. It automatically has that GPS location. So this is also very beneficial in the mapping side of it for the long-term things. And I'll talk about that shortly. And then we have individual and encampment on the bottom here. And I want to remember encampment because I'll be going back to that and referring back to this slide throughout the presentation. But on individual, a lot of these are based on point in time count, HUD information, and you'll see there's not a lot of law enforcement information here because we're not looking for that. Next to kin information, people die homeless. And then the HUD questions here, they have a disability factor. Those are the HUD definitions that they see. And are they a veteran? And through all these different things, are they chronically homeless? HUD sees chronically homeless as a person homeless for a year or more with a disability factor. So all of those things that we could build this data to take that back to see the needs of our community. From that, entering that information in the field, the next two apps provide a view of what that creates. And this shows data that is collected by our law enforcement agencies, and there's 9 agencies within the county, plus the sheriff's department with 20 contract cities. So all of that data is going into one form. So here's the different things. You can see on the map here, I mentioned encampment. We just started that about a year ago. All the yellow dots are in encampments, and one at Dodger Stadium. Sorry, I'm a Dodger fan. And then all the red dots went to a game last week, so I had to drop a pin. So all the red dots are individual homelessness. So we're able to look at that, and you can see the number here, 6,026. But as Shelby goes through, and if we were looking at veterans, we just want to see what the veterans look like, 476, and where they are around the county. So we could target that outreach to the veterans when we're with providers around the county. Or if we want to look up an individual by a name, we could go and we could find that. So as some of you might know, through the process of getting those people from the streets to housing, and we put in a name here, and we could see where that person has been contacted and how they've moved around. So you could see in a small area that this person in particular it moved around in the city of Highland, just north of here, but typically she's in one spot. So now a group that's ready to house her can go target their employees to go try to start the case management to move her beyond homelessness by there. So it helps us break down all those different things, and then it also creates a lot of analytical dashboards that we use on several different things. One is to see what we have overall. So we were able to dump our historical data, some of it, into the document, into the Esri database, but we used to not have GPS locations. It was an intersection here and there. So some of the pins were just generic, but you can see overall in the past 5 years kind of what our numbers look like. And then we're able to, this is a query dashboard, so we have the little drag over, and we could even go down by date. So if we want to see what homelessness looks like this year, we can see that in real time. And this is just by law enforcement that is putting in with homeless outreach teams around the county. Or if we want to look specifically by a city, we could break that down. So sometimes our captains or the cities are looking for that data, or when we share a lot of this data back, and protecting the individuals, where we have that on our map, everything we share back is a heat map. So when they see it, they don't have the individuals, they see the heat map locations of where they are within those cities. And we share that back to some of the cities like Victorville and things like that, where they've built dashboards around our data going into that. The other thing we've done is spread out amongst other agencies, in particular our flood control district and our public works, our county code enforcement. So when we're out there and we know of the dangers, in California we're not used to this rain that we got the past few weeks, months. We had 18 inches this year. That's like 18 more than ever. So this riverbed here is the Mojave riverbed. It's up in our high desert area, and it's one of 4 rivers that run north in the world. So it runs from just on the other side of the mountains to the north here at Lake Silverwood, all the way up through Barstow towards Vegas. They're all trying to follow you to Vegas, even the water. So typically this is very dry, and in 6 years of doing this, I've never seen water in there. So a lot of population goes down to that area. So when we're out on flood control and we drop a pin, it actually notifies flood control of the people that are there. They have a dashboard of unverified camps and verified camps. They'll go out, and within 72 hours, they'll verify it. And if they need to move forward with any type of cleanup, or if they're in the middle, things like that, then they have their protocols to that. But it also helps for when this rain did happen. There was in Silverwood, the reason that water's there is they opened the dam for the first time in several years to let some of the water out, and that created that water flow. We were able to go ahead of time and notify those people by Public Works going out there at those exact locations, knowing where people were, to notify them, hey, there's water coming your way. In both the Santa Ana River here through Redlands and San Bernardino, and the Mojave River up in the high desert. So a significant tool for that when we're sharing that information and not siloed. The other thing that we've done is created a homeless activity reporter, which is a public interface, also on a mobile device. So we have this link embedded into the sheriff's website, and it could be downloaded by our social workers, it could be downloaded by our public works, it could be downloaded by Caltrans. We're working to get this in all of the fire trucks within the county. So they go out on a run to talk to somebody that called 911, they're homeless, and we could follow up. We're working on getting this in all of our units throughout the county. And it's just a few questions. There's nothing particular because we don't want them going and saying, who you are, what's your name, but it has the few little things and then who they are. And when they submit that, it actually feeds into another dashboard that when we're out in the field, we'll have this dashboard in real time, and we're able to go on this dashboard and see where those people were when we're in an area. So you can see some of the activity over the past couple days that was put in there, so it only keeps a little bit of data, but when you click on that, it actually will go to that encampment, and it'll share the information about that encampment. And then this one here has a photo attached, so we know what we're looking for, and if we go down there and offer them services to move them beyond homelessness. So one of the things is there's about 350 service providers around our county, and we don't have that information flow for everybody to have access and be working together. So we've shared a lot of this information with our cities, with our county agencies, our Office of Homeless Services, our Department of Behavioral Health, so they see that in kind of real time on those collaborative partners that are using that. So the other thing that we were able to do based on our information was our point in time count for the first time. We were one of 6 Southern California continuum of cares that used Esri to do our point in time count with a survey 123 in the mobile capability out in the field. So we had about 750 volunteers. For those that don't know, this is a HUD mandate that every other year you have a point in time count. We do it in a 4-hour window on the last week of January. We send our volunteers out. So we were able to train the volunteers in a 1-hour period of how to use the application. And one of the things I think we got, our numbers aren't officially released yet, but like everybody else's, they're up. And I think we got more of an accurate count. And talking to several other communities that did this, they feel they also got a more accurate count. One of the things we were able to do is we were able to take all the data that we've collected over the past year and build our zones for point-in-time count volunteers to go out. So if they had a 10-square block area, typically they walk around that and nothing with one clipboard. This year, we showed them where to go, where the homeless normally reside, and everybody has a smartphone in their hand, and everybody was counting. So rather than 1 out of 3 counting, everybody was counting, and like I said, we got that more realistic count. So we used that targeted approach and created that more accurate account and had this survey through the Survey 123 platform on everybody's app. So you notice that the field collection, the mobile workforce is extensive. All of our agencies on law enforcement throughout the county are working together on that. Members of the public, service providers, our code enforcement, the public facing, and then volunteers and outreach through all these different applications that we've worked together on doing. The other thing that we have is in California, our folks don't usually stay incarcerated. They become county prisoners. And as they exit our jail systems, to reentry into the community. So we have a team that we built off of us that looks for people that want to get into services. And we've also built several dashboards and using that mobile app. So when they go meet these inmates in the cell, in their units, they actually have a mobile device through an iPad, and they take that and they ask those questions right in the cell, automatically feeding the dashboard. And in there, if they say that they're homeless, they could ask them where do they reside homeless, and they could do a general GPS location to where they are, and it feeds this dashboard automatically to us, and we go out and follow up with those folks where they are out in the field. And again, the goal to move them beyond homelessness and the criminal activity to reduce that recidivism. So in our first year, before we were just on pen and paper, we contacted about 600 people. With moving to the GIS platform and being able to do it on the phone, we have contacted about 2,000 people in the past year. Overall, we've been able to help house 1,600 homeless individuals around the county. And from 2014 through 2018 on the point in time count, we've had a 9% reduction in homelessness on the street. So expanding with the service locator, the resource apps, the activity reporter, like I mentioned, all those different things, the ultimate goal is to get more of our contacts, get them connected with the system to move them beyond homelessness. We're just trying to help those folks move beyond homelessness. Another side of law enforcement is to help the community and trying to ultimately help move those people beyond homelessness. And we've been able to do that very successful, like the guy that started this, Kevin. He would have been homeless for over 13 years. Obviously, like he mentioned, addicted to meth and things like that, and was able to move beyond homelessness. So I hope these efforts can serve an example of how you can implement the Esri technology to address homelessness in your communities. So thank you, guys.